Back in the sort of the irenic 2005-2007 period, the argument that was being made was that in order to get folks like China, folks like India to sign on, you needed American action first. And now what you actually see in America, as far as I can tell, among folks who say, look, I believe in it, but it's just too hard to do anything about, is a kind of reverse argument, which is that because nothing will matter if we can't get China and India to sign on, there's no reason for us to make any moves until there's some kind of broad international agreement. So I'm curious, sort of, as you've covered a number of these summits, like the ongoing Warsaw Summit, whether you think these kinds of international frameworks in any kind of serious or binding or aggressive way can be done first before the U.S. actually takes a big step, or whether or not groups like China and India are not going to allow anything serious to kind of pass until they get sort of an assurance that rich countries like us are going to sort of take the lumps before, countries that are still trying to power the same kind of fossil fuel-led rise out of poverty that we had.
I'm overall not as optimistic about the international process, probably because I've covered it for a number of years. I'm not in Warsaw right now. I made a pledge that I will not cover another COP until 2015, which is now when we're saying that we might actually finally decide to agree to something.
But that's just because it's in Paris.
Right. Also because it's in Paris, to be clear. Now we're saying maybe 2015, but wouldn't really come into effect until 2020. And so I think that process is sort of not necessarily where to put all of our emphasis right now. I think there's a lot of interesting developments happening in one-on-one partnerships on technology sharing between countries. I think that there's promise in the global, the Green Fund, which we would be actually sort of directing funds to developing countries so that they can develop their energy systems in a much more sustainable way. I think that's promising. I also think that there is a growing role for not just China, but for countries like Brazil and India who have expressed interest in taking action regardless of whether the U.S. decides to get some real skin in the game. I also think that China is responding to pressure internally to do something serious, and I think that they are actually doing a lot more than they often get credit for here in the U.S. Because people can't live, you can't breathe the air there. There's a lot that's happening internally, and I think that they are actually responding to that, and that's changing the dynamic significantly as well.